Thank you, everybody, for joining. I think we've sorted out a couple of the little glitches, so we're ready to start. My name is John Restakis. I am the moderator for this series on Rojava, titled Rojava, Resistance, Resilience, and Renewal. Democratic confederalism and the changing face of revolution. This is the 8th in a series of 10 lectures on Rojava. This lecture is titled Ecology and Jineology. And we have as our guest a lecturer, Zehriban Hussein. She is a member of the Jineology Academy in North and East Syria. And we will be joined later by a respondent, Eleonora Gea Picardi, who is a PhD student. Thank you, welcome. Eleonora is a PhD student in the program Democracy in the 21st Century at the Centro de Estudios Sociais, I guess, in Portugal. This lecture series is being co-sponsored by Synergia Cooperative Institute, of which I am a member and a co-founder, and the Center for Civil Diplomacy in Rojava, and the Global University for Sustainability. And it is part of the 2023 South Dialogue on Sustainability, which is being coordinated by the Global University on Sustainability. So the way the lecture works is our presenter, Zehriban, will speak for about an hour. And then she will be followed by a response and comments from our respondent, Eleonora, who will respond to any ideas, thoughts, reflections she would like to share on Zehriban's lecture for about 20 minutes. And then we will open the floor to questions from the other participants on the webinar. So without any further delay, I would like to welcome on behalf of the lecture series, Zehriban Hussein. So Zehriban, please take the mic and share us your thoughts when you're ready. And we're very interested in your comments and in the ideas you'll be presenting us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I also would like to thank the Civil Diplomacy Center and also the University of Global Sustainability and for this opportunity. And we will talk about ecology and genealogy today. And these two topics are very thorough discussions, and we will talk about why these two parts of the science they exist, what they focus on, and these two science can be at the service of the society, because we know that the positivist sciences mostly rather than serving to the society, they make the society serve them. But there will be only an hour is given to me, so but I don't think I will be able to cover every detail about these topics, but I will try my best. I have a slide. It is about the Jineology Academy. We will watch this or see the slide, and accordingly maybe we can also discuss afterwards about these topics. This is the logo of the Jineology. And we will also start the genealogy and ecology and their relationship. At the beginning, it's very important to say that both genealogy and ecology, they are the sciences of life. These are the science that we cannot separate them from our life. It's very much in the life. And ecology is also the mentality of life and also being partners in this life. And these common sides of genealogy and ecology are many, many things. They have very much many things in common because both of them, they really want to find solutions against all the destruction that took place in our world. They want to find solutions and also rebuild them. Of course, we all know that after the classes and the states that developed, and then there was the dominant positivist paradigm, and the way that they approached the nature is that nature is not something alive. It's like a matter. It's like a thing that you can just approach and use it for yourself. But we know that nature is very much alive. It renews itself. It brings new things, and by occupying this the the nature, it's been distracted by the hands of the people, and then eventually with this mentality even the human beings are being occupied, and against it, of course, the nature has a reflex. Today we see that the now global warming and melting snow and then the rays of the waters, sea of waters. These are all the response, all the reflection of the society against the human intervention in the nature. With this, it's now as a reflex of self-defense. It's responding to these interventions by the human beings in the nature. So, and the humans, we destroyed the ozone, we destroyed all the natural balances in the world, and the industry by the use of plastic and also fossil-based. This is the thing that if you these are all the results of the destruction that you took place against the nature by the use of excessive fuel-based fuel and also using plastic, and everything is destroying the nature. This is all done in the name of the industry and industrialism, and the nature is now reacting against us and it has to protect itself. Therefore, it's very important to talk about the ecology. And when we talk about the genealogy, we also need to define genealogy, what it serves, and also we have to find a connection between geology and ecology and genealogy. We will also focus about how we approach these two different sciences. Genealogy is the knowledge, is the science of women and life. It's also knowledge and science of coexistence and a free coexistence. And it was written for the first time in 2008 in the Öcalan's book called Sociology of Freedom. That was the first time that Öcalan actually proposed this name and this science. It's a social science because we know that women are one of the important elements of the society. Of course, women are not only and like a biological existence or biological being, but also it is a social being, and it also plays its role in the society. And women are the ones actually who bring life to this world, and therefore it is it's a science that's focusing or interpreting the life, the understanding, the mentality of women, and it has to be in a correct way. By understanding and interpreting the woman and the life, we can have a better life. We can also control our lives. In Kurdish language, jin is the word for woman, and logi is also the Greek suffix for the science. Why we brought these two words, jin, woman, and logi? In many, like many other languages, or especially in the antique languages, we see that the word woman and life, they derive from the same root. As in Kurdish, it's the jin and jian. These are the words for woman and life. Therefore, genealogy means the science of woman and science. Of course, when we talk about life, we also talk about the coexistence, living together. We all, because if we only focus on life of or woman and ignore or omit the mutual life or living together or coexistence, this will be an incomplete science. So genealogy is also a science, not only finding out the shortcomings or problems or deficiencies in the life, but it also repairs them. It offers solutions, and it can be related about anything in our life and also anything about related to the woman. So, and for the terminology, for the words, for the we this also dominating the way that we think. Therefore, it's important for us to define this terminology in a way that is not influenced by the patriarchy. So we also define the nature of human beings, the nature of living together, as well as the relationship between the human beings and the nature. And we know that because of the patriarchy, who suffered at most are women themselves and also the nature. It is all because of these patriarchal approaches. Because when we see that patriarchy dominates women and the nature, and therefore these two suffer at most because of patriarchy. So we recognize this reality and try to find a solution for this, because patriarchy is not only occupying nature but also occupying women, and through that it also affects and brings the entire society under control. So we have to recognize the problem and produce or alternatives. With the, according to positivist paradigm, it brought the fraction between human beings and the nature. And because there is a very centralistic or a very person-centric approach, an individual approach in the positivism is very obvious. So whenever or whatever they do, it's always for me and then not for the others, always bringing yourself in the center. And then that also causes a fraction or an alienation from the society and also from the nature. Of course, this positivism also created its own character, its own pattern, and we have to break this pattern. Therefore, genealogy also tries to find alternative, create an alternative to this pattern. And also it should be a science that is together, that is very much present in the nature and in the society. There are hundreds, thousands different names of the different science. It can be ontology, it can be mathematics, it can be biology or chemistry and whatsoever. There are thousands of words we have. So why all these sciences that we are talking about, why do we need science if the science is not gonna serve the needs of the society, or that should be the purpose of the science? When we look at the history of humanity, the destruction of nature by the hands of human beings and the reaction of the society against these intervention and destruction. We have so many different examples in the history. And the destruction was also took place but through science, or the science that produced and then invented this also ended up destroying the nature. So we need a science that will walk with nature hand in hand. And in this way, we also compare the woman and the nature, their mutual, their similarities, the way that they are being exploited, they are being abused by the human beings or by the patriarchy, and also by the science. And Abdulah Ocalan says there is a big universe. This is the universe that we live in. It's but a smaller, a small universe, he means human beings. It is also a small universe. And we can understand this small universe actually in the body of the woman. They are so similar with nature, and then and female body, we can see this production. For example, every month the women have their periods, and then and the way that we know that the way that the it is the same thing that we can see there. What every month that the woman body renews itself and there has its period, the same thing happens to the to the moon. Every 14 days, the moon renews itself. These are the similarities. Or when we look at the nature, the I don't know how many percent of the nature is composed of water, same as the body of the human beings is also contains so much water. There are so many similarities. However, unfortunately, the dominant mentality, they just ignore this fact that we are so similar. And they also ignored it when we look at the education in the school, at the universities, they taught us something else. They we we were taught that nature is something dead and it is in our disposal. But no, nature is very much alive, it's changing itself, it's reproducing itself, and we cannot actually use it or exploit it the way that it pleases us. So, and this fact is being ignored in the education and people are alienated. So we have to discuss and then see the nature and the similarities between human beings and between women and also nature. So these are important to see and realize so that it will make it possible to save the nature. The when also people realize the similarities between female body and also the nature, it will also raise awareness. And by saving women, by liberating women, we can also liberate the nature. And Öcalan also Öcalan also focuses on the liberation of women on what basis? When we read his defense in the court, he talks about the liberation of women, freedom of women, and he also proposes some methods. All these the traditions, the classical roles in the society, and the understanding of women. These are all the influence, or these are obstacles in front of understanding women. And the freedom of women or liberation of women, this is also a reaction against the sexism. Because in the sexism, you can see very clear division of the roles. What a man is supposed to do, what a woman is supposed to do, and these roles cannot be changed. And it's already decided, determined before you. So you have to comply with those roles. But we have to so we have to understand this sexism and also after understanding it, then we can try to change it, and it will also bring a change in the society. And when we also see, because of these roles that are already assigned to these different sexes, they always see the woman very weak. A girl cannot do much. She is not very the women, they are not strong enough, they are weak, and for the men, they say they cannot cry, they cannot show their emotions. So by understanding these roles, we can change them. Or just to understand why the women are or the girls are very fragile and the men are not. Is there any scientific basis for it? No. Are there any researches about it, or is it just the society that teaches you these things? So genealogy is its main purpose is to liberate societies from sexism. At the same time, we also said the paradigm of democratic nation is a very important part of the genealogy. It bases itself on a democratic society, an ecologist society, and a free life. It is based on also freedom of women. So a democratic society, an ecologist society, and also freedom of women. These are the three pillars on which democratic nation develops itself. And and also liberating a country, it will start um, with these pillars. If you want to liberate a country, then you have to create a democratic society that respects to nature, and it's also bases itself on the freedom of women. And how you can do that? It can do, and according to the sociology of the region where we live, genealogy is now according to the sociology, the structure, social structures that we have, we try to develop some methods. And also you can see genealogy in different parts of the life. It can be education, politics, ethics and aesthetics, demography, history, economy, health, and ecology. These are the fields that genealogy conducts its researches and also comes up with they determine the problem and also trying to change the approach or these classical or traditional structures. And education is one of the most important ways to change this mentality. We we also know that education is very important for the nation states because they teach you through that educational system. Uh, but it's also very important for genealogy and for the democratic nation to to give education. But our education is different than the one provided by the nation state. It's, it's not that teaching and making people to memorize everything. It is actually teaching how to think and also and politics is also very important. Politics means organizing the life. So the politics that politics should organize the life in favor of the human beings and with ethics, but what kind of politics do we want? A politics that serves for the rich or not prioritizing, give priority to the societies, or we want a politics that is uh, moral and also serving the needs of the society. For example, today, ethics is also, moral values are also very important. We see today the aesthetic operations, the surgery for their physical appearance. People are being are trying to change their appearances, their nose, their cheeks, just to forget that symbol of beauty that proposed by capitalism. So this is also against the nature. For just giving examples, uh, makeup, for example, using chemicals just to make yourself look good. And these are all produced in the factories. And it is also affecting the nature. So what kind of beauty do we want by using these chemical makeup products, which eventually destroy the society? And what kind of beauty will it be? Or what is beautiful in that sense? This is a discussion around ethics and aesthetics as a part of Jineology that we focus on. And demography is also one of the main fields of Jineology. When we look at the society, when someone gives birth, when someone dies, when people get married, when they get divorced, when the people are being displaced, all these matters, all these subjects are research within the scope of demography. These are, it is this, it is not only about population, but it's also the way that people live. So the increase of the population, or how if we keep reproducing and there are so many people, the number is raising, the number is increasing, and then if it continues like this, what will happen in 10 years or 20 years? Or the way that the people, when they die, the way that it continues, how many people die, and then how it will continue in future. And we know that the number of the people, the more it increases, the more problems it causes. It also affects the nature. These are all the questions that researchers are dealing with, and they're trying to understand the way that it works. And history is also very important. It's important because many things in our everyday today's life, we find something, some roots in the history, or we don't find much about the woman in the history. And why is that? Because, and Abdulah Ocalan says, the history of the enslavement of women hasn't been written, but today their fight for liberation is being written. So women are now writing their own free history of their own freedom. Although we are living in the present, in future, our present will be history. So it's very important for us to write our own history and our own history, but also our struggle for freedom. Economy is also another field. It is related to demography, and it's also related to ethics, aesthetics, and politics. And all these topics are actually interrelated. You cannot separate them from each other. And when we talk about economy, what kind of economy do we want? Or when we look at the problems in our current life, the world wars, are they political reasons or were actually economical reasons behind them? And instead of an individual economy, we want a social economy. So when we have a social economy, will it be a solution for all the problems that we are facing today or not? So these are all the discussions. And also, and Genealogy, when conducting these discussions, they also get in touch with the relevant organizations, concerned organizations, the people working in that field, and very interactively, they have discussions, have very lively discussions. And the topic of health, it is also is and it's also that the people are also very alienated from nature. When we have stomach ache, we go to a doctor, they give us a pill, and we take the pill, but we just take it as a thing that we can actually just repair, but it's not looking after your body or finding natural solutions. No, your body is also being uh, trying to find solutions for in a hospital. And also there is such as industry, pharmacology, that producing so many different medications and also destroying the nature and polluting the air and environment. So instead of a capitalist health, we are we are in favor of a health that's based on natural remedies, and people should use or find this their own personal strength to fight against the diseases. There are also many others. Another topic that genealogy is also focusing is the ecology. We mentioned nature in every related topic is, and then our approach towards to nature, the ethics and aesthetics of it, and these are all they are related with each other, because when if a person, for example, if they don't have an ecological life, if they don't they live distant from nature, they will not have a health, they will not have their demography, they will not have the other topics either. So they're all related. All these and all these are also related to ecology, from politics to education, from history to economy. They're all related to nature, and it's also related to ecology. Ecology is very important because in the times that we live, we see that how the nature is being exploited and destroyed and polluted. The, our lives, today we see all this industrialism, all these nation states, these are all we see that the problems they cause. So they are not solution. we have to correct these mistakes. So we have to have a different alternative lives. We have to develop a mentality that respects the nature rather than exploiting and abusing it, because this capitalist economy is bringing so many problems, including environmental problems. And our priority should be protecting the nature. And to understand that, to respect the nature, or to imagine a life in which we human beings and the nature are respecting each other and appreciating each other, we need this mentality that will comes from democratic nation. It doesn't come from the state or nation state understanding. It is about domination, but we are talking about coexistence and respecting each other. We know that destroying the nature, it also eventually means destroying the human lives. But ecology, it is a term that emerged in the 18th century. It redefines the relationship between the human beings and the nature, and all these different creatures that live in the nature, their relationship, the balance among them. These are the focus of the ecology. That's how we define it. But within the ecology, within these science, we see that it is easy to set, but it is easy to talk about this, but finding solutions are not very effective. Of course, ecology is talking about this, but in the practice, we see that in this capitalist system, to implementing those things are very, very important, because it requires the development of the society. And with this current situation of our world, ecology has to be actually a radical science, because the time is flying, and with the destruction of the nature, we need some radical steps in terms of implementing measures for the protection of nature. It is important that the people working in this field of ecology or ecological movements, they should have respect to nature. And by respecting nature and accepting the balance that we exist between us and the nature, that's the way to protect the nature. These are the topics that we talk about, the defining and interpreting within the scope of Jineology and ecology. The next topic we focus on this: how and why the nature was destroyed. It goes back to the beginning of the civilization, when the hierarchy also emerges, when the states they emerge, and the societies become, or when the individualism improves. These are all the factors that destroyed, or opened the path for the destruction of nature. And as we said earlier,
Zehriban, I'm just letting you know there are 10 minutes left for your lecture. So just a 10-minute warning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. يعني يا هرك جرينج أو أكو أم
The most important thing is we have to understand why and how the nature was destructed. And once we understand the reasons, now it's easier to find the solution, because when you ask it, you also find the solution for your next question, because understanding the reason can be the half of the solution itself. So it's important. We have to focus or have researches in this by looking for answers for this question. And we know that by destroying the nature, humans are not only destroying nature, but also destroying themselves. In the name of the development, in the name of the improvement, we are destroying the nature. We are producing so much gas and oil and plastics in the factories, and eventually we are also exploiting the nature. And in this circle, we are also destroying or harming ourselves. But we just do not realize it. We need the nature to survive. And once we destroy the nature, there will be nowhere for us to survive. So we see that capitalism is now harming or risking our lives, human lives, for its existence, for its continuity. The industry or the gases that they let it in the atmosphere, we are polluting the air, polluting the nature, and also step by step killing ourselves. And as I mentioned earlier, Öcalan, related to ecological topics, he focuses on the freedom of women and coexistence, free coexistence, and democratic nation. And another topic that Öcalan also focuses is the ecology. With the crisis of the society, we see that the crisis in ecology is also deepens itself. The question of ecology starts with the beginning of the civilization. So when we want to find a solution, we have to go back to the beginning where we lost it. So that's how we can actually find solutions, how it started, how we started exploiting and destroying the nature, and how we can stop it. And the purpose of ecology is that it's the biological and physical nature that basis of itself with the society. It's the coexistence of respectful society towards nature, and all the ecological activities should aim at this, having respect between the society, human beings, and the nature. So when we want to survive, we have to respect nature. Because the nature, and we also believe that after the industrialism and capitalist economy, we started destroying the nature. However, Before that, human beings existed for such a long time, and they lived in peace with nature. Actually, human nature is also based on respecting the nature, but it is the capitalist system that destroys the society. In his writings, Öcalan also mentions that the word of amarge, which means freedom in Sumerian language, means going back to mother. So Öcalan says that our liberation, our freedom will be also for us going back to Mother Nature. And he wrote extensively about this topic in ecology. It is a very important ideology, and we have to see everything through these lenses when we want to find some solutions. And
ده همون دمه ده اکولوژی و ایدئولوژی جی ده نوبری واندا پره يعني
so the ethics and philosophy, how they are related, and ecology and the ideology should have the same relationship. Ecology should be a part of our ideologies, and at the same time, destruction of the nature, and also the class system that also destroys the of the society, and also with the patriarchy, this still continues, because the patriarchy has the idea of belonging. It thinks women belong to them, they think nature belongs to them, and they can exploit them the way that they want. And it still goes on with this understanding. The solution, how we can find a solution, what will be the solution for an ecological life, a practical life, based on the freedom of women as well. So we have to liberate women and the nature together. We have to develop this understanding in order to save our life, our nature, and in the history, throughout the history, we see the outcomes of these interventions and exploitation of the nature. We killed some of the animals that do not survive anymore, or we are using these. We use this plastic and also fossil-based fuel, and we are killing the nature with it, and then eventually it will kill us as well. So we need to redefine our relationship as human beings together with the society, with the nature, and it should be based on respect and coexistence. It's not that we as human beings can dominate the nature. We can also should have a similar understanding within the society, and we know that's in Rojava, in northern eastern Syria. This is also is very important for a democratic nation, and understanding nature, respecting nature is a very important component. And the same understanding we can apply in the society. It's also based on the coexistence, respecting each other, and recognizing the autonomy of it. This will also, when we talk about the paradigm of, it will be a practical implementation of the democratic nation. In 2013 and 2014, we had several communes that established in throughout the region, and it was also about genealogy, about the freedom of women, but also about ecology and the nature. Congress Star was one of them. All this work was actually carried out by the women, the ecology and the genealogy. It is also important for in the inquiry for the solution. And we also have Renewal village. It is a women's only village in northern and eastern Syria. It is also a place, it is a life going back to the origins. It is a village where they have a real village life. Times like before industrialism. They are using the ecological sources, and it was built by the woman. So instead of massacring each other, our banner is living together. So Jinwar is also a very important example of it, that women are living there and they have built their houses, not using anything industrial, and now they are collecting or in their gardens the herbs, and they're trying to cure some of the diseases or illnesses through these natural remedies. And these problems that or the I'm talking, it's not only about the Middle East or Syria. It's about entire world. Freedom of women is a problem everywhere, and respecting nature should be at the agenda of everyone in the world. So in Rojava, we have the opportunity to implement this ideology, and Junwar is also the concrete example of it. But as we said, the freedom will be by going back to Mother Nature, and it will save the nature, and it will also shape and reshape the society. At the end, in order to have an ecological life, in order to save the nature and also save human lives, the only solution will be the democratic nation and a life based on respect and coexistence. And ecology should be a part of our nature, ideology. We have to respect the nature, and we don't own the nature. We just share this world together, and we have to, in the face of all the crises that we see today, the crisis of the society, the crisis of the capitalism and patriarchy, with our alternative is coexistence and ecology. I think I'm out of time now, but thank you very much for listening to me. And now I think we will listen to you, and then maybe we can also answer some questions later. I will be happy to answer them. Anything about ecology or genealogy. And thank you very much once again for listening to me. Now it's you.
Thank you so much, Zehriban. That was a fascinating overview of these intimate interconnections between the philosophy and practice of democratic confederalism, and the way that intersects with issues of women's power and role and nature in society, and that connection with nature and ecology was fascinating. Thank you for providing that overview. So let me introduce again Eleanor Gea Picardi. Is that correct, Eleanor, the way I pronounced your name? Close enough? Okay, thank you. Eleonora is a PhD student, as I said, in the program Democracy in the 21st Century at the Center for, I guess, Social Studies in Portugal. So, Eleonora, please share us your thoughts and comments.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. First, I want to thank you, the Civil Diplomacy Center and the Global University for Sustainability, to inviting me and providing this space of discussion on such an important topic. And I want to thank you a lot, Zehriban, for your illuminating talk, really, on genealogy and ecology. And before starting the specific discussion, I would like to introduce by remembering Nagiana Karsel, a Kurdish woman assassinated by Turkish intelligence in Suleymaniye on October 4, 2022, when she was leaving her house at 10 a.m. in the morning. Nagihan was a longtime activist of the Kurdish women's liberation movement, and since many years, the director of the Jineology Journal, a member of the Jineology Research Center, and at the time of her murder, she was working for opening a genealogy library in the city of Suleymaniye. Her murder was not an isolated case. In the course of 2022, at least 5 women of the movement have been killed by Turkish intelligence in Bakur, and many others targeted in Rojava and in other places of Kurdistan. And in general, the KJK, the Community of Women of Kurdistan, recognize, and I'm quoting, a similar policy and attitude towards leading revolutionary women in different parts of the world, which show us that we are confronted with a global counterattack of capitalist misogyny, aiming to prevent our century from becoming the age of women's liberation. Many communiques and declarations published after Nagihan's death were underlining that she was killed because she was a woman and because she was furthering the practical philosophy of genealogy, relying behind the Kurdish slogan, Genjian Azadi, woman, life, freedom. Indeed, her murder was the expression of at least 3 parallel tendencies. One is the genocide against the Kurds and all ethnic and religious minorities in the area struggling for their life and autonomy. Second is the feminicide against women by patriarchal forces at each and every level of society. But I would like to add another tendency, which is ecocide against the environment and against those people, the herd defenders, such as Nagiana Karsel, who try to defend it from attempting to defend it and trying to regenerate biodiversity and build a just coexistence, as already been said, between humans and the non-human world. More specifically, I retake Silvia Federici's ideas, and I see Nagihan's murder as part of the contemporary systematic attack against the reproduction of life in favor of the production of goods and accumulation of money, power, and profit. An attack that is based on the privatization of the commons, such as the waters of the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in Kurdistan, on the expropriation of the means of life of thousands of communities, and particularly women, and therefore on the repression, criminalization, and eventually killing of those who, by defending their life and their subsistence means, are fighting for another model of socio-ecological coexistence. The Women's Commission of the Keneke wrote, after Nagyan's death, a clear-cut definition of such a systematic attack against the reproduction of life. They wrote, "We must end the rule of patriarchy, which in this century, with the dictatorships, fascists, despots, and aggressors, is destroying more and more people, natural habitats, and the entire environment for their own personal greed and power. With Jinjian Azadi, this is possible." So by listening to Zehriban Hussein today, we understood genealogy as a science that is actually working to end such patriarchal, capitalist, and fascist attempt to destroy human and non-human life on Earth. Genealogy, as we heard just now, is not proposing a technology-based approach to nature conservation or sustainability. It is not by greening our exploitative capitalist economy that we can stop current violent ecosystem crisis, nor by push forward palliative reforms within modern nation state. Genealogy is saying that this crisis should be faced by a deep rethinking of our modes of knowledge, of socio-ecological coexistence on the earth, and of our ways of organizing the reproduction of life. This can be reached in many different means, of course, but one of the tools of genealogy that I want to deepen today to connect genealogy with ecofeminist thought is that of rewriting history or her story, searching in history, as Zehriban said before, the roots of this planetary crisis, but also the means for its overcoming, the solutions. So looking at history, Ocalan before and then genealogy, locate the roots of the present ecological crisis, not at the end of the Second World War, nor 2-3 centuries ago with the Industrial Revolution in England, as other scientists did before, and not even at the beginning of capitalism or modern colonialism. Genealogy is creating another historical narrative that is grounded in Mesopotamia and in the Fertile Crescent, and that started with the first appraisal of the civilization, as Zehriban explained to us before. So nearly 5,000 years ago, with the transition from the Neolithic epoch to the first Sumerian urban state civilizations. It is here, genealogy says, that we have to locate the kind of power system that laid the ground for all the others in human history, including that of human over the natural worlds, patriarchy. Patriarchy, or what genealogy calls the system of the dominant man, is the power system from which all the other hierarchical and exploitative systems based on class, state, religionism, and the capitalist modernity derive. This is the ancient the more ancient power system, but it has not always existed. Before the establishment of the first Sumerian city-states and the ziggurat, matriarchal or matricentric societies were in place in the region of the Taurus Mountains. And for genealogy, these societies were the cradle of a non-hierarchical ecological society, where the dualisms of modern times and of positivist science between the humans and non-humans, culture and nature, reason and emotions, spirituality and materiality, mind and body were not there. Maria Mies, who is a German ecofeminist activist and sociologist that Ocalan has repeatedly quoted in his works, identifies in ancient matriarchal societies a woman-driven form of production of life. This form was not based, she said, on the objectification and exploitation of nature, or on the production of goods, but on the reproduction of life and on interdependency of human and non-human needs, not on the accumulation of wealth by few people, but on the subsistence of the entire community. Here, women shared the life communally, not in family households, and were crucial agents of the collective, political, and mostly economic life. Their modes of production of life were the essential ways of survival for all. And for me, as like Jineology, with the establishment of patriarchy and hierarchical society throughout history, a predatory mode of production affirmed itself. A mode that does not reproduce the conditions of life for all beings, but destroy them by exploiting at the same time nature and the labor of those subjects, particularly women, that for centuries have been guaranteeing life. What happened in this moment is an overturning of values, in favor of power, wealth, and then capital, while before it was for the regeneration of human and non-human life as crucial for survival. And here it comes a concept that for me is crucial for, has been crucial for me to understand genealogy and democratic confederalism and to create their connection with ecofeminism, which is the concept that has been coined by Maria Mies and retaken by Ocalan of housewifeization, which is quite difficult to say, but it's quite interesting to understand. Housewifeization it identifies the confinement of women in the household and in the family. And genealogy defines it, Ocalan and then genealogy, as the crucial weapon of the power of the dominant man to impose his exploitative system that laid the ground for capitalism and for modern colonial nation state. By the process of housewifeization, women have been progressively turned into the property of men, natural objects against men as cultural subjects, and confined within the realm of biological reproduction, so excluded from knowledge, politics, and economy. Through their housewifeization, patriarchal powers have tried to break matricentric communal societies and the forms of reproduction of life that for centuries and millennia, women and the subsistence communities have used for taking care of the earth. These forms have been turned into backwards, anti-modern forms of life, useless, undervalued, and therefore condemned to the extinction or reabsorbed into capitalist patriarchy. However, history is not linear. This is what genealogy teaches us. History is not a progression of evolving stages. It is a spiral, and all the epochs in history are still present today. This means that in a way, we are still living in the Neolithic. We just need to see this truth and making of it a source of revolutionary change. And genealogy is doing it. It argues that in today Kurdistan, as well as everywhere in the world, there are still living traces of the matricentric society of the Neolithic time. They have survived in the knowledge, labor, memories, traditions, and life experience of many women and peasants communities that are keep resisting against colonial, capitalist, and patriarchal domination, and that are keep working for defending human life as well as natural resources such as river, seas, forest, and animals. The task of genealogy, is what I understood throughout my study, is therefore to collect and revalue and interlink such traces of the Neolithic time, of the matricentric society, the traces of what they call the democratic civilization against the state civilization. And when I went to Rojava, I could visit some genealogy centers, and its members told me that they are indeed engaged in historical, anthropological, and archaeological researches, but also in sociological, empirical one. through questionnaires and educations with women of different ethnic and religious communities. Jineology's members told me that they are inviting women to share their knowledge related both to their resistance to oppression, exploitation, and war, but also to, as Zehriban said, natural medicine, agriculture, herbs, healing practices, environment conservation, self-defense. So knowledge that have been historically silenced and that now can become the source of collective resistance and for an alternative system, no? So by doing so, genealogy work in Rojava becomes a crucial tool to progressively break women's housewifeization, putting the basis for their liberation, but also for ecological revolution, the two main pillars of democratic confederalism. The latter, indeed, has to be intended for me as a radical alternative to the civilization of the dominant man and of its system of housewifeization. It is not by chance that genealogy is considered the science at the basis of this paradigm. Through its work, both in Kurdistan, in the Middle East, and also in Europe. Me, for example, I'm working collectively with the Genealogy Committee in Italy, in other parts of Europe, and with the Genealogy Committee in Europe. Through this work, genealogy is nurturing the evolving practice of democratic confederalism by decolonizing people's knowledge and mindset, deconstructing dominant masculinities, and overturning again the dominant system of values in favor of the reproduction of life, in favor of life, human and non-human. And at this regard, I have a question for Zehriban. When I've been to Rojava in 2019, I could appreciate the educational work of genealogy being developed at every level of society, in the comunas, in the structure of women in Kongrastar, and also just with the education with men. I've been also to, just for a few days, unfortunately, but to Jinwar, the woman eco-village that you mentioned before, and to the Genealogy Andrea Wolf Institute. However, for a matter of time, I couldn't really understand how much genealogy work that is apparently so pervasive, no, in the there, is having an impact in the general planning and the policy of ecology and economy in Rojava. So a level of administration, how are you introducing genealogy's mindset inside the macro politics, let's say, of economy and ecology in the self-administration? I have few minutes still or not?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay.
Yes, yeah.
2 minutes, okay. So super quickly, I know I would like to add another issue, because also to connect genealogy with my places, let's say, the global north, no? Because genealogy always, for me, makes really sense to connect with global south, indigenous women's resistance and movements. But what about the global north, no? Also in the global north, there are resistance forces against environmental injustice, no? And I'm thinking about in Italy, for example, or in Portugal, where I live, there are some movements, for example, the NOTAV movement that for 20 years is struggling in the north of the country against the construction of a high-speed train line, no? A line that is already polluting the valley, destroying natural resources and peasant communities' subsistence means. Another is in the south of Italy, in Taranto, where for decades the Ilva steel mill has been dumping huge volumes of toxic air pollution, causing huge health issues for the people that live and work in it. Or in Portugal, in the Covas do Barroso, the community struggling against the establishment of a lithium mine in their territory, no? Denouncing this new green frontier that is the lithium today. And all these movements have been crucial, and they are also reflecting about alternative, no, not just reacting. However, despite women are in the front of these movements all the time, the anti-patriarchal issue has never become so crucial for them as it is for Jineology or for the Kurdish women movement. No, the issue of sexism, the struggle against sexism, and the link between women and ecology. There is, of course, in the discourses, but not so central in their practices. No, the struggle against patriarchy is like a woman issue still. But it is also true for the ecological issue. Many times in the common sense, ecology is always on the not in the top of the list of social and political urgency for movements today. So considering this, I would like to ask to Zehriban another question, or how to do all the work that you are doing, connecting ecology and feminism in the midst of war and continuous attempt at military occupation. No, I'm asking if there have been conflicts among people and activists in the movement who maybe carry different interests or different strategical perspective, or that simply sideline the issue of anti-sexism of ecology. How do you manage, no, as Jineology and women and the women's movement to keep the line and not sacrifice such fundamental issue when facing apparently much more urgent problems such as military occupation? So maybe it is an issue related to self-defense. How do you intend self-defense in this case? But sorry for taking too much time, maybe. Thank you so much. And yes, thank you.
No, thank you, Lenora. Those wonderfully compressed presentation, what you would normally take an hour and a half in a lecture, I'm sure. But thank you very much for that. So let's highlight your two questions for Zehriban. The first being, to what extent has the philosophy, ideology of Jineology actually succeeded in being implemented, I believe, as you were saying, in the region? That's the first question. And the second question is, given all of these very urgent security concerns and defense concerns and life and death matters on a day-to-day basis, to what extent have the principles and the vision of Jineology actually been able to remain front and center and focused in the project in Rojava? So, Zehriban, it's your turn.
بله
Yes.
as دخوازم سپاسیا
First, I would like to thank Eleonora for her very meaningful presentation. I'm very happy to see you here. Before I answer the questions, are there more questions? Shall we collect the questions first, or it will be like these two, or some? How shall we do that?
I think, Zehriban, let's answer these two first, and meanwhile, people can pose their questions in the chat box, and when they come in, I will field them when they appear after you respond to Eleanor's questions. Okay?
يعني نهاش خا شاواد هندري شورش يعني شورش هيا
How is there is a revolution, sure, and then Jineology, we want to implement it, and then you said that we can watch on TV every day we are being attacked by Turkey or by the different groups, but yet our revolution is still going on. We are not suspending the revolution, and Jineology is a part of this revolution. Jineology is not something out of our lives. It's not disconnected from our lives. No, it is actually a part of our lives. And It is not something that we are trying to bring from outside into our lives. It is something that exists in our lives. So it is a part of our life, and it is also like reinterpreting the life and through a different lens. So we also consider we deal with every different ideas or every different incidents and taking place in the life, we can understand through these lens. So as I said, it is not something new that we want to invent and bring into society. No, it is something that already exists, but what we do or what we are trying to do is and evaluate everything through the genealogical lens and find different solutions. And an ecology and genealogy, how we can actually combine them. In the northern eastern Syria, in Rojava, Kurdistan, we have Jineology academies, Jineology centers, and Jineology is also as a department taught at the universities, at the faculties, and in the councils and the communes and the cooperatives, they have their own committee of education, and the Jineology is a part of their curriculum. So Jineology is everywhere. Everybody, it found its place in everywhere. I mean, they are present in every city, in every region, and it is also integrated in the education. And they are also cooperating and working together with different structures, different organizations, because we know that we can change or we can actually implement Jineology by making it more visible and present in life. That's where we can actually try to try to make it available and visible in everywhere. I hope I could answer your questions, I hope. And I hope that I could convince you with my answers.
Okay, thank you so much, Zehriban. The floor is open for others who wish to pose some questions or comments. If you have a question you would like to ask, please insert it in the chat box at the bottom of your screen or raise your hand and I will recognize you. Okay, no one is coming forth yet, but let me make a comment, something which caught my attention. Zehriban, you were placing a lot of focus on the role of capitalism as a primary cause for the destruction of the environment, for the exploitation of nature, so on, and instrumentalization of nature has a much longer history. The history of the rise of hierarchical and powerful power systems that seek to exploit and instrumentalize nature for the accumulation of wealth, for the accumulation of power, and the assault on nature that this entails, goes back to the very earliest days of history and prehistory, and the rise of the city-state form in Mesopotamia as being one historical marker where this process might be said to have started. And I think this is an important point. I feel sometimes that although capitalism has certainly perfected the instrumentalization of nature and the desacralization of nature and the alienation of human society from nature, as no other system has before it, the commodification of nature. In fact, this process is not due to capitalism alone. We can see equally destructive assaults on nature and on women in non-capitalist systems, like in a Stalinist Soviet system that was not a capitalist system, was a state-run, centralized economy that also instrumentalized and assaulted nature. So I think we have to be careful if we place all of the onus on capitalism as being the primary driving force for the instrumentalization and materialization of nature. I think this goes to a far deeper and much more troubling and difficult factor in human evolution and human society. So that's just a comment I just wanted to share. And I thank Eleonora for raising that historical perspective, which is important to keep in mind when we think about how we address this profound disconnect and alienation of human society from our natural world. I have a question here. Let me just open this up here and see what we have. Edwin John says, I really learned immensely from the talk. A simple statement like healthcare as a repair, as in machinery maintenance, rather than as a biological and ecological approach. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions that they would like to raise? Eleonora, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Not really. I would prefer to hear from other people here and from Zehriban, honestly. Yes, I think that I've already took too much time talking.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so I see no more questions coming in. Zehriban, would you like to add anything to your comments, either from the remarks I made, or anything further you'd like to share with us before we close off the presentation?
يعني من good as a subjugation.
I said also earlier, once again, thank you very much for listening to me. I understand your commentary. Of course, we didn't say anything different, that's right, but we focus on capitalism. As you said, it is currently that we face a lot. And why we are talking about capitalism? Because it's very much present in our life. And also, we also mentioned in my speech when the hierarchy started, it was the beginning of the exploitation or destruction of the nature. So the dominant powers, when they created the hierarchy, the first that they enslaved was women and also the nature. So, but it's still, they were not that disconnected from the nature. But today, when we look at our current life, it's not only this disconnection, but also destruction. It's immense. And this is a reality. And so this is, it also developed with the idea of the state, and the state also used the natures, and step by step it became immense and it improved. But as you said, we also mentioned that the beginning is much before capitalism, but now we say this, the scale of the destruction is so immense. And I hope that you found our presentation useful, and I hope that I give you at least a small touch of genealogy and ecology for the people who might be interested in. And thank you very much once again for the invitation.
Thank you. We do have one question. Actually, we have two. Let me read this. First, we have a comment from Jared Ebenrek, who says, this is so powerful and thank you. I have been a social ecologist for 30 years, and the work in Rojava and what it inspires gives us all life. So thank you for that comment. And then finally, a question from Adam Virak, who says, I think it was touched on a bit in the talks, but I wonder if either of the speakers would like to speak on the patriarchal positivist myth of efficiency birthing terrible things like industrial agriculture, etc., and how focusing on genealogy and ecology contradict the concept, how the mentality of women is able to challenge male-centric modernity's idea of efficiency. Interesting question. Got it? So that goes out to both of you. Who wants to tackle that?
I can try.
Go for it.
I can try to answer. Yes, I don't know if my answer will be a definitive answer, but starting from my studies on ecofeminism and on material feminist thinkers, and so how they said about efficiency, that we can also talk about productivity, no, or the idea of the hyper-productions of goods in massive, large scales at the expense of environment, but also on humans' labor, no? And about this topic, and I think it's quite connected to what I was saying on housewifeization and on the reproduction of life. Many feminists have been talking about the separation between production and reproduction throughout the history of patriarchy and of capitalism. So how in a certain moment the production of goods, so the fact of produce something that can be sell, it was the place of value, no, the visible place of value and economy, and so value was produced in this sphere, while the reproduction of life, that is the wealth of the humans, the society, the community, and the environment was progressively discarded, no, as a sphere of non-labor, of non-value, of nature, no. So and in this sphere, it happens to be put inside both. Non-human humans, so those in the colonies, or Black people, or enslaved, but also women, and also the non-human world, no? So this reproductive sphere that is definitely not based on the hyper-efficiency, because to take care of another human being, of psychological and physical health, or to the health of the planet, or of plants, of animals, you need time, you need another set of labor practices and values, no, and socio-ecological values, also ethic and aesthetic, as Jineology said, no. So having rewriting history and also rewriting our values, as Jineology says, from the perspective of the sphere of the production and reproduction of life, from the spheres of women, non-humans, and the enslaved and exploited people, is the perspective through which we can definitely overthrow the efficiency paradigm, no? The paradigm of hyper-production, of production of goods as the only sphere of wealth and value, no? So and I definitely agree that with Jineology and what John was saying, that to do this we have to really go back in history and not only find the roots of the crisis, but also the roots of the solutions, no? So other ways, other modes of production and reproduction of life that are not based on efficiency. I don't know if I answered the question, but thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Now, Zehriban, do you have some reflections on this?
يعني شخص تشتكوا أزبيجم نرجو تريد تشتكوا أينورا جوتي.
I agree Eleanor's statement. And our alternative, it will be, is the democratic nation, and you mentioned what we can do, what we implemented in Rojava, Kurdistan. So this is the place where we're trying to implement it. It's not about efficiency, it's about the historical background you mentioned. But now we are in the process of implementing this, and our alternatives will appear, and then we are trying to create alternatives. It's all about the related. We will see how it will goes with the revolution. So, and in different countries, we see that it is. We also see, and the thing also at the level of the social changes, and an alternative will be democratic nation in that sense too.
Okay, thank you so much. We still have a couple of comments, but I believe all of the comments of actually gratitude and appreciation for the presentations and also the responses have been posted in the chat, and they will be saved, I believe, and so people can refer to them. This presentation has been recorded, as have all the previous presentations, and so they will be posted, and you'll be able to visit them and view them once they've been edited down and posted on the Global University's website. So I think this brings us to the close of our session. I want to thank you again, both of you, Zehriban and Eleanor, for your fantastic presentation, very thought-provoking, and we delved into a number of extraordinarily critical issues, but still only touched the surface. So still much more to discuss, hopefully sometime in the future. But for now, we'll close off the session. Let me say before we end that the next lecture, which will be lecture number 9, will be on the 14th of September, exactly 2 weeks from now, on a Thursday, same time. And the title of the lecture will be The Social Economy and the Cooperative System in North and East Syria. The lecturer will be Chalang Omar, who is an academic in economy and a consultant in social economy. And the respondent will be me, John Rastakis. And this is a subject that's very close to my heart, and I'm very much looking forward to the lecture in 2 weeks. So thank you all so much for taking part in this extraordinary series of lectures and presenters and respondents. I wish you all a happy remainder of the day or the evening, wherever you are. And hopefully we'll see many of you again at the next lecture in 2 weeks. Zehriban, thank you, my friend. And Eleonora, thank you too from where you are.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so
All right,
much. Thank you, Zehriban.
Take care, everybody.